What Ange is going to be going over today then is not all of the functionality inside the tool, but the functionality that Cape Region is going to be using to document the results from our testing. So one of the biggest things is the people change in this, and what we've tried to put together with your help is the scenarios that outline the things that will be changing so that people can get a sense of how the application will work on day one. So what Angela is going to walk you through is how you go in and document test results and how you would mark if something didn't work the way you expected it to, or if it was something wrong in the script that you wanted changed in the script, and all those sorts of things. And then we will be helping in the background, like I said. So I'll hand it over to you, Ange, and you can start going through stuff.
Okay, are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, perfect. So for starters, when you log into TransIT, you're going to be brought to the Cape Regional Projects page. And when it's the first time that you're signing in, what we would recommend that you do is click this gear icon that's in the top right corner. And that's going to bring you to the user roster page. And so the important things to set up from this page, for starters, is you want to make sure that you have this box checked so that if there's anything assigned to you, that you receive an email notification to say that there's something assigned to you. And then also, if you're assigned to a specific position and you have steps that are due up next for testing, but you have stepped away, it will send you a email notification to say, hey, you have steps up in whichever scenario you're up next in. So by default, it's going to automatically bring in the email address that is set up for TransIT. But if for some reason you wanted the emails to come to a different email address, this is a free text box that you can type whatever email address in you would like. You can put in your contact number, so that would be good for if anybody needs to get a hold of you, they know what number they can reach you at if they need you during testing. We're in the works of getting texting set up for the same purpose. So for notifications when you're up in testing or issues, but it's not functioning just yet. So that's what that field is about. Roster, under the roster section, your status, you can indicate what you're currently doing inside TransIT in case people are looking for you in TransIT to see what you're up to. And then the next thing that you're going to want to set up for rosters is what position you're going to be responsible for in the test scenarios. So you can either start typing in here to narrow down the option from the list, or you can just select the options from the list that you're going to be covering for the scenario. So we can say that I'm going to be responsible for any step that has the position of system selected. And so all you do is you select the option from the drop-down list, and it'll display on the side here to say that I'm currently going to be responsible for anything that has system selected as a position. And if you're wanting to remove the option that you've selected, it's just this X that you would click. Another thing you're going to want to do if you are signing in for the first time is change your password. So I believe everybody is initially set up with the password test, but I'm not sure. Patty, I think you set everybody.
I think I set the password up to be jellyfish.
Okay, so there you go. So to change your password, you would just click your name link in the top corner. You would type the password in that you want to select and then repeat the password and then click save, and that'll update your password. There's no character specification, so it's not like one capital letter, one number. It's whatever you're wanting the password to be. We have no requirements for password.
Is the
So-
testing positions multi-select, or are you only picking one there?
Yep, I could select as many options as I want from
Okay.
that drop-down list. So yeah, I assume there's probably going to be a few people that are responsible for multiple different positions. And so yeah, you would just select whatever position you may be covering. And so
And specifically make sure that you choose the patient ones as well, because you'll be pretending to be the patient, or Tara, whoever helps you test, will be pretending to be the patient. And so if it's a scenario, it's patient and patient on phone and patient in email for all three of those cases. And then those steps will notify you. So what will happen is if we're running like 5 scripts all at once, and if you're figuring out one and you're due up in one of the other scenarios, you'll end up getting an email saying, hey, you're on this one too.
Okay, so once everything is set up under rosters, you're going to then want to click on testing here from the blue bar. And that's going to bring you to the test execution page. So I have set up just an example round of testing, and I just pulled in all of the scenarios that are currently created for Cape. You can see on under the facility column here, it indicates which facility is being used in each scenario. If you're wanting to filter to only see scenarios that are for your specific facility, you can click on this link here and it's going to filter that list. So now it's only showing me the scenarios that are for CRPA. And when I did that, it then gave me this remove filter link in the corner, and then I would just click that if I wanted to remove the filter there. So I showed you setting yourself up for the roster. This icon here shows the roster that's set up for your particular round of testing. So if I click that roster icon, it takes me inside and it shows me who's participating in the testing and what positions they're covering. It also shows me what number I can contact them at and what email address I can contact them at. So if you're trying to track somebody down who is participating in testing, this is where you can go to see their contact information and what they're going to be responsible for. If I want to look at that based on the position, I can click this view by position link. And that then shows me what positions are participating in testing, and then who is the person that is going to be covering that position. It's important to view this before testing to see if there's any positions that don't have anybody assigned to them, because you want to make sure that someone is assigned to each position that's going to be participating in testing. So you can either use your gear icon here to add the positions there, or you can click this add user link. And you can either select from the drop-down list or type the person's name in. So we'll have Fran selected here. And so this can obviously be changed at any point in time. So you can see that there can be multiple users for each position, but you just want to make sure that there's at least one person that's selected. So to go back out to where I just was, I can click the testing link from the breadcrumbs there. So that's kind of the only thing for the most part that you'll be doing from this test execution page. What you're going to want to be focusing on is the test dashboard. So this icon here, so you'll see these icons are going to repeat on the various screens that we go to, and they're all going to take you to the same different navigation spot that you need to get to. So if I click the test dashboard link here, it takes me inside. And so this shows you all of the scenarios that are, all the scenario names. This column here gives you the patient name that's being used in that particular scenario. This link where it says view, if I was to click that, it's going to take me inside to look at the header And so your header is going to give you the scenario details. So what's happening for each day of what's happening each day for that particular patient, the patient's name, and then this is also where you're going to want to go in. So if you're the person that is the registration person or the scheduling person, and you are responsible for registering that patient in Allscripts or in Meditech, once that patient has been created in either Allscripts or Meditech, you can then go into the header here and click this Edit Details link. And you can type the number into this field here. And then that information is going to be retained and pull forward into anywhere through the steps that that the MRN number should show up. So it'll actually correspond with the number that the user would be seeing in Allscripts or Meditech. So that makes it more clear to those participating in testing. So then the next column here is going to be the day number. So I'm currently set up to only be showing things that would be due up for today. So today we have both day 1 and day 0 steps due up, because day 0 steps are going to be anything that needs to be done ahead of time before testing. If I want to see the steps that are for more than just today, so for every day of testing, if I click this more link here, my screen refreshes and it blows out to show you all the different days of testing for each of the scenarios. I can then click the less link to go back to my previous view of just showing the steps that are required for today. So then the next columns are pretty straightforward. It's the number of steps that are remaining, the number that have been passed, flagged, marked as issue, and skipped for the day. And based on what is showing for each scenario here, it's then going to calculate a total at the bottom for all of the scenarios put together. This shows you the amount complete. So nothing's been started yet, so it just says not started for all of the scenarios. If I was to click, if there were any scenarios that were currently showing as complete for the day, and I was to click the less link, it's going to make any script that has been completed for the day fall off of my view here. So the next is the step number that's up, the position that's currently up, and then the action that is up for that scenario. When you are first coming in to look at your test dashboard, I would recommend that you always turn on the auto refresh. So you can do a one-time refresh of your test dashboard just by clicking this refresh icon, and then it'll make sure that you're looking at the most up-to-date information. But if you use auto refresh, if I was to click this link here, it turns on auto refresh so that every 5 minutes my screen's going to refresh. So again, making sure that I'm looking at the most up-to-date information. By default, when you click the link, it automatically sets it up for every 5 minutes. But if that is too often for you, then you can click change auto refresh and you can type in whatever duration you want into that field. So we can say I want it to refresh every 15 minutes. And then I would click OK. And as you can see from the note here, if I want to turn off auto refresh, I would just type 0 into this field and then click OK. So the facility filter is available from this view as well. So if I wanted to filter by facility, I can click this link here and I can indicate which facility I want to see scenarios for. And so I've selected just CRPA, and if I want to remove the filter, I can click on the facility name there and it takes off the facility. So then I'm once again looking at all of the scenarios. This clock icon here is a inactivity notification. So it lets you know if you're seeing this clock icon that the scenario has not been acted on, has had no steps executed on for at least 10 minutes. So by default, it's going to be every 10 minutes. But again, just like the auto refresh, if you want this icon to show up after, say, 20 minutes of inactivity, you can click this clock icon here. I can change the duration to be whatever I would like. And now that clock icon is going to show up every 20 minutes if a scenario is not acted on. So when you're ready to start executing steps for a scenario, you can either click the scenario name link or you can click the link from the action column here. Either way, it's going to take you to the same spot. So I'm going to click the scenario name link here into this scenario. And this is where I would go to start executing my steps. So we can see that the only steps that are required for this scenario for day one is to have the patient scheduled for their appointment, which is then going to have them receive a creation message. So they're going to open the creation message and it's going to have this information display for them. From this page, you can also see that there's a green underline for the position names. If I hover my cursor over that, I can see who is currently responsible for this position. So it's just a visual indication to, okay, who should be acting on this position that is currently up right now. So when I want to start executing my steps, I can use the icons that are along the left-hand side here. So once I have scheduled my patient, you can see right here it says MRN is generated, update when created, FIN is generated, update when created. So if I am the front office staff and I have scheduled my patient here for their appointment, and then I can jot down what the MRN and the FIN number is. And once I have that information, I can then click test header here and then edit details. And I can search for my MRN and my FIN. And I can update the fields here. Oops. And then click save. And I was in this one. So you can see by updating that information in the header, instead of saying update when generated, it now has the exact number that I typed into that field. So anywhere throughout this scenario where it says what the patient's MRN number and FIN number is, it's going to have the number that you'd be seeing in all scripts or Meditech, whichever you're working in. So when I'm this front office staff person, I've registered my patient, I've got their numbers documented, and everything happened successfully, I can then click this pass link here to say, okay, yes, this step worked, everything is correct. So you can either mark off just individually by clicking the pass icon here, or if you are able to complete multiple steps in a row, you can use the down arrow that's along the side here. So I'm going to just pass this one for now. If I click the down arrow beside the first step that I want to act on, it flips all the arrows to be up arrows. I can then scroll to the bottom of where I want to stop acting on. I'm going to get to the end of the notes. And I click the up arrow beside the last step that I want to select. And then it gives me this list of options here. So if I want to pass all of these steps here, I can click pass. And so that's obviously it's much easier to pass multiple steps. So I pass steps 3 through 63 just by using the arrows, which is obviously much faster than clicking pass individually for each of those. If you come across a step that that has an something inaccurate in what's listed and needs to have the script updated to have more accurate information, you can pass the step and then use this icon here to make a note. So when I click this add a test note icon, and I want to make a script change, I can select from this test note type script from the drop-down list. And I can select the status. So it's going to be new because it's a brand new, the status of your note is new. And then I want to assign it to somebody. So I can either select who I want to assign this to from the drop-down list, or in this case, because Make Solutions is going to be making all of your updates here, you could just type make into this field here. So it's either the option of selecting from the drop-down list or just free typing into there. And then you can indicate what changes need to be made. So I'll just say for now, script needs to be updated. And then I click Save Note. And now that information has been saved to our test report. If you come across something that that did not occur, so let's say we're at 72 hours here and the 72-hour reminder message did not come through for my patient, I will click the flag icon here and I will flag my step for follow-up. So it's going to take me back to the same test note page. And instead of selecting script from the drop-down list, I will select issue and still assign to Make Solutions, and we'll follow up with whoever it is that's going to need to look into this step. And in here, I can say 72-hour message did not come through. And so let's say because that message did not come through, it means I cannot currently complete any of these steps. If you want to skip past steps that can't be acted on, but steps that are following it can be, you can skip those by, again, using those arrows. So if I click the down arrow beside the first step I want to select, and then the up arrow beside the last step I want to select, I can then skip the steps here. And I can make a note maybe on the first step and just say, communication, because I want to let everybody know what's going on. Send it, oops, to make. Oh, oops. Did it not? And now you can see that the next step is showing here. If I want to go back out to my test dashboard, I can click this icon here. And now you can see that I've been working on scenario 1107. You can see that for the current day, there are no steps remaining. There are 2 that have been passed, and it says that it's finished for the day. So I mentioned that if I click this less link, it's going to remove from the list any scenarios that have been finished for a day. So if I click less, it's going to refresh and you can see that that scenario has dropped off. And then you can see that the information is pulling down to the totals here. So there's been 63 steps that have been passed and 1 step that has been flagged and 9 that have been skipped. So that's a total of 6% overall completion for the round of testing. So when you are acting on steps and then making notes, they're going to be sent to the test report. And the test report is this icon here. And so when I click that, you can see that here are the steps that I've made notes on. So here's my first one, script update needed, the message didn't come through, and then the communication note. And so at this point in time, it'll be us at Make Solutions that goes through and makes all of the changes to whatever's from the test report here. But this is where that information can be found. So again, if I want to go back to the test dashboard, I can click this test dashboard link here, and it brings me right back here. If I want to look at steps for a specific position or group of positions, instead of looking at the main test dashboard, I can look at a position dashboard. So if I click this position dashboard icon here, it takes me to the pick position dashboard page, and here I can select multiple positions. So let's say I'm acting as both the patient and the parent positions. I can select all of those from this list here and then click submit. And now you can see these are all of the scenarios that I have steps up in. So in scenarios 1113 and 101 or 1101, 1104, all of these, you can see that I am currently the step that is or the position that is up currently. I know that because in this waiting for column, there's nothing showing here. But in this scenario 1113, there are 2 steps that need to be executed before my step is up. So rather than working from the main test dashboard, you can execute your steps from this dashboard here. So if I'm ready to start acting on a scenario, I can click on the link that's beside here. And so it's going to take me into a same kind of view that we saw before, where I can act on my step. So I can pass my step. And when I'm done, I can click the position dashboard icon. That takes me right back here. So I can then keep acting on the rest of the scenarios that I need to be working on. So here you can see it says change auto refresh. That's because I had set the auto refresh from the main dashboard page. So that information does carry over to the position dashboard. So again, I can either single refresh, I can keep the auto refresh, or I can turn off the auto refresh. And when I do that, it's going to be both for the position dashboard and the main dashboard. So again, if I want to go back to my main dashboard, I can click this test dashboard icon here, and it's brought me back here. So now you can see there's an additional icon that's showing. This icon, if I hover over it, it says over 50% of steps are outstanding and it's past noon. So this icon is going to show up anytime you get to 12 o'clock in a day and there are at least 50% of the steps that still need to be acted on. And that's meant to just kind of keep you on track for the day, just an indicator to say, hey, we're at least 50% of the way through the day, but you're not 50% of the way through your particular scenario. It's also going to show up if it becomes 3 p.m. and you're not at least 75% of the way through your scenario. If you need to make a note to everybody who's participating in testing. So let's say this first scenario here, it can't be acted on yet, and I want everybody to know, and I want people to not touch it. I can click this add a note icon here. When I do that, it then gives me this click to edit. I can click to edit and say, Scenario is on hold. And save. Now, anybody who signs on and they see this first scenario, they know, okay, I shouldn't be touching this scenario because it's currently on hold. If I want to take that note off, I would click the note there, delete the note, and then click save, or you could change the note if you need to change it. And then it's going to give me back the icon here. Are there any questions on what I have shown?
So if you are in a test scenario and you answer one way, and then you think about it later on, and you need to go back and update that, is that possible?
Yes, it is. So let me, which one was I making changes to? It was this one. So by default, it's going to show you just the steps that are remaining. But if I want to see all of the steps again, I can click this all link here. So it says view steps. You can either see all, just the problem steps. So I'm going to click this all link here. And now it shows me all of the steps that, that are there for testing. So let's say in this case, I passed these ones, but I want to reset them. You can either use the arrows to reset multiple steps in a row, or you can click this arrow icon and just reset individual steps there. So there was, let's just view only our problem steps. So these were the steps that I mentioned that we had to skip. So let's say we skipped them, but we're able to start acting on these steps again. So we said that the 72-hour message didn't come through. Let's say we fix that issue and the steps can be acted on now. I can just click this down arrow here, click the up arrow here, and reset all of these steps. And then if I want to act on the steps again, I can start working through my steps again. So I'm going to click all here, and it's brought me back to show all of the steps for the scenario. And if I want to see just the ones that are remaining, I can click the remaining link here, and then I can go ahead and start acting on these steps again. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Excellent. Are there any other questions or anything else that you want me to go back over?
No, I'm just really glad we recorded this.
So can I make some suggestions?
Sure.
So number one, when Anne showed you that position dashboard, that's going to be best for you guys to use because your scenarios are at the bottom, just because alphabetically they're at the bottom. So, I mean, it's always best to go from the position dashboard anyway, but by doing that, number one, it'll get the Cape Regional Medical Center ones out of the way, so you'll only be looking at yours. And number two, it's only going to show you the steps for today. And so it's nice in that position dashboard because when everything's gone, it means you're done for the day. So you want to execute the steps for day one on day one, day two on day two, and so on, because that's when you're going to be able to confirm that the messages show up where you anticipate them showing up. So for those two reasons, it's great to go from the position dashboard for you guys in particular. Then the other thing that I'm going to suggest is, you see Angela has this test dashboard that's out there. I know the interface isn't available yet, but we still could have you guys go through your scenarios on this test dashboard by, instead of waiting for the API to be fixed, by going in and using the clipboard and adding the patients. So that would allow you to get familiar with TransIT. It would also let you get familiar with the scripts, the way we put them together, and see if you think of any other scenarios that you think we should be testing.
And when does this have to be done by?
Well, so you guys are a little bit further out because the API hasn't been set up yet. So you have more time. I'm going to suggest on the call with the whole group today that they all get in and they walk through this test dashboard that Ange has set up. Because for the medical center, I'm hoping that the Saurian cold feed will be set up this week. And so there's no reason why they couldn't start doing the real testing next week. The other thing that we haven't talked about with the group that might be a useful thing to do is to make sure you're like, we also need to test the appointment mapping, right? So we reasonably could as well put in a test script for functional testing for this so that you guys would send over one of each of your appointment types to make sure that the forms are generated correctly. And Ange could create that as a functional test script for you too. But we can talk about that on the call with the whole group.
So that's all that I had set to show, unless you can think of anything that I've missed, Patty.
No, I thought you did a great job, and I'm glad we recorded it as well. And so we'll make it available via a YouTube link. And like I said, I'll send it out to everybody on the project team.
And so Patty mentioned that this is available for you to play around with. There's nothing that you can do to harm anything here. So you don't have to be afraid that if you go out and start executing on stuff that it's going to mess anything up. This is safe for you to go ahead and play with as much as you need. And if you have any questions when you're in playing around, please don't hesitate to contact me because I'm happy to walk you through any questions you may have.
If they're jellyfish related, they'll make sure you copy Stacy Lynn on them because
Oh, sorry. Yes, that's a transit specific.
That's
transit.
yeah. Thank you. I mean, I think that that's an important distinction.
Yeah.
So I guess what I finally figured out is that you guys are really two different entities.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Make Solutions, TransIT is a Make Solutions tool, and Jellyfish is currently using it on all of their client implementations to kind of improve their testing. So what's the most difficult with a Jellyfish implementation is the people process changes, not setting up the application or making sure that Jellyfish works. So the idea of using TransIT is just for there to be a place where you can go in and work through the workflows and document that you tested them and it worked correctly, or that when you're doing integration testing, if something doesn't work, we can get that back to Stacy Lynn or whomever else. If it's an interface issue, get it back to Robert or whoever it belongs to in Jellyfish to say, hey, this didn't actually work.
So if I understand correctly too, we don't really have to do that. We, meaning Tara and I, will not be charged with testing until the API is complete. I mean, we can go in and play around, but we're really going to want to test this with data coming through the interfaces, correct?
Correct, but I was suggesting that what you could do in the meantime is go in and look through the scripts because you can put patients in without the API. And by doing that, you would like mostly I want to make sure you've thought of all of the scenarios. So, you know, we hammered out several for you, but Tara and you should really think, okay, are there other things that we really want to test before go live so that we know how it gets handled?
Right. Okay.
And then as soon as the API is set up, then there'll be two different kinds of testing you need to do. One, this workflow-based testing that we're doing here. And the second one is you've been copied on the emails that we've sent to Kristen and Lisa and whomever to say, okay, now that your interface is ready, go in and put in, you know, all of your appointments to make sure that they all map correctly and shoot out the right forms in Jellyfish. So that's the other part, which would be called, you know, functional testing. Does that make sense?
Sure. Okay. So,
all right, so it'll probably be, because I've got other calls, so it'll probably be later on, maybe this evening when I get that YouTube link out. And like I said, I'll just send it to the whole project team.
I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. And thanks, Angela.
Thank you, Angela. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye.